Hi, it's me again on my big stupid Italian bike that's so powerful. And today's topic is crashing your motorcycle is almost always your fault. This is something I've been thinking about lately, and I've been trying to think of how I'm going to make this video without it seeming just like I'm talking down to people who have crashed their motorcycles, because I count myself among people who have unfortunately crashed their motorcycles, and mine was completely my fault. And I think this topic actually started off in the Discord server the other day. I saw somebody talking about how crashing a bike is almost always operator error. And that's kind of a hard thing to admit, right? Like as motorcyclists, we think, oh, all the cagers are out to get us, all these damn clippings in the road. It's much harder to sit there and self-reflect and ask yourself, wait a minute, like, did I not see those clippings? Did I not see that cager? So today I just wanted to talk and just have a nice exploration about these themes aboard our absolutely wonderful Aprilia 210 V4 factory 1100. Those words always kind of jumble up together. Click the link down below. This is a giveaway bike on my website, yammydoob.co. You're not going to want to miss it to get entered to win this one. And our next giveaway motorcycle is actually going to be a Panigale V4. So if you sign up as a member now, you'll get access to win that one too. It's going to be a great time. Let's start this bike up, shall we? Oh my goodness. I think I say the same thing every time, but I don't really care at this point. I'm just love this thing. You know, it's interesting, in speaking about kind of semantics about this, people say the words accident and crash kind of interchangeable, and I think the word accident kind of implies that no one was at fault and nothing could have been done, and it was just like, oh, you know, like it just is what it is. Sometimes these things just happen. And I really want to challenge that notion. I want to spend some time today and discuss, like, I don't think that there's many situations when you're on a motorcycle that just simply happen to you. I'm a big believer that you're the maker of your own destiny. I think that if you're deciding to ride a motorcycle, you have to have a very high degree of personal responsibility. Because when you choose to jump aboard a machine and you choose to go ride it, you're taking a lot of responsibility into your own hands, and some into the hands of others and environmental factors. But I've been riding for a decent amount of time. This is coming up on 11 years this year that I've been on a motorcycle. I've done track days, racing, lots of road mileage, some adventure stuff. And the longer I ride, the more I kind of realize that I'm the maker of my destiny here. Like, there's so many situations that I see online and in videos where I'm like, this did not need to happen. You know, especially those videos where people are carving up twisties and having fun in the canyons. And the simplest thing they could have done was just slow the down. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but if you simply ride a little less fast, then you're probably going to be way better off. Let me explain. So, when you're riding quickly, the closing distance to fixed objects becomes so much larger. What do I mean by that? I just mean it takes a lot longer to come to a stop, to adjust your line, to make changes. Whenever you're piling on speed, things happen a lot faster. You know, at a very neutral example, right now I'm going like 40 miles an hour on this road. Anything could pop out in front of me, I could probably take care of it. Like, there's nobody behind me here. Something, if a deer popped out in this corner, I would just jump on the brakes and be able to stop pretty much whenever I want. I can react to stuff really quickly. And if you're piling on speed, if you're riding beyond your abilities or at the limit of your abilities, you don't have that margin. And so that's the first one I see, where I see people crashing and they're like, oh, I lost the front end on the street. And I'm like, well, first of all, no, you didn't. Like, you had really bad inputs that led you to crash. Nobody's tucking the front end on pure, like, input alone. Nobody's actually, like, punishing the front brakes hard enough on the street to actually tuck the front. It's a totally different situation. So that's the first one. I think it's the easiest one to solve for. It's like, if you've crashed, more than likely you were probably riding beyond your limit. And so now let's get into other situations. People tell me, yeah, but somebody, you know, they changed lanes in front of me and then, like, they cut me off and I crash into this car and blah, blah, blah. And again, I don't want to victim blame, because there's certainly times, very rarely, that somebody just randomly cuts you off or steps on the brakes or jumps out in front of you. I have seen videos where I kind of think to myself, boy, that one would have been really tough to avoid. You know, like that was a very serious situation this person found themselves in, and there was not a whole lot they could have done. But those are really rare, you know. I think what we can do, and this is something that you're taught in the basic rider coach training, which is something I've actually done. I don't talk about this much, but I am certified to teach the MSF Level 1 and 2, the BRC course is what I'm trying to say. I did the whole rider coach training. I just never followed up on it because I find that I'm not that great at teaching in person. I seem to do better online. And the first thing you kind of think about in those is lane positioning. It's anticipating movements. And I talk to you guys a lot about the more you ride, the more you find yourself having these like sixth sense about things where people's behaviors start becoming relatively predictable. It's pretty rare that somebody does something totally crazy in traffic, you know, like a move that you're like, whoa, like what was that? You know, the other day I was on the highway and somebody merged into the HOV lane, you know, and kind of knocked over a bunch of those little like plastic bollard things in the middle of the highway. They just like merged over and just took out like 50 of them and then got onto the HOV lane. That person could have been drunk, they could have been high, I have no idea, but that was an example in the last like 2 or 3 years where I was like, wow, I never imagined somebody would take a maneuver like that. That's pretty nuts. But if you give people space and you respect the rule of might is right, you're probably going to be way better off on a motorcycle. This is something I see a lot too. Videos where people are like, I had the right of way. And I'm like, you are on a motorcycle, you never have the right of way. Just by the fact that you're just this tiny thing that's completely exposed in traffic, you have to assume that you never have the right of way, and you're just going because it's clear to go. Once you kind of embody that mindset of, instead of believing that you have the right of way, or it was my turn to go, that doesn't exist when you're on a motorcycle. The only thing that exists is it clear for me to go? Is it safe for me to go? And if something bigger is coming, any car, any truck, anything like that, then usually that means that it is not safe for you to go, right? That usually means that you're going to put yourself in a situation that you have to ride defensively. And that's the big thing. You know, you're taught in driver's ed to ride defensively and to not be aggressive. On a motorcycle, that becomes tenfold because you're not going to stand a chance against any car. Any car that hits you is going to be a very bad day for you and a fender bender for the other guy. So you gotta operate like that, man. I see way too many videos online where people go through an intersection or something and they're like, but I had the right of way. And I'm like, that doesn't exist on a motorcycle. There is no right of way. There's a lot of other cases too where people, you know, they'll be in traffic and like they're stuck at a light or something and they're just not doing best practices. Like I talk a lot about how when you're sitting in kind of bumper to bumper traffic, which does happen from time to time on a motorcycle, especially if you guys are out there commuting, you know, doing the daily thing with bikes, you know, you're going to be jumping on the highway, it's congested, it's crazy, and you got to do the best practices. You have to split when it makes sense to split. You have to avoid cars when it makes sense to avoid cars, give them their space. The trick that I do a lot of the time is I simply give as much room between me and any cars as possible. I do not like rolling in the middle of a bunch of cars in traffic. If I find myself in that situation, unless I'm really pressed for time, I'll typically just like, you know, bounce out of there and just wait for the traffic to subside a little bit, or I'll just, again, like I said, I'll go through all the traffic and get ahead of everybody, and then you're not going to be putting yourself in that situation. But I think it's really hard. It's really hard for people who have never crashed in controlled environments or felt what a motorcycle does at its limit, or have been riding for a long time. It's really easy to fall into these more like egocentric traps of thinking that, you know, like, oh, like I have the right of way, or, oh, like that guy shouldn't have done that, you know? Because once you have that experience, you realize that people they're not out to get you. They're not out to kill you. The car drivers are not trying to nuke you while you're riding out there on the road. The problem is inattentiveness. And this is something I see a lot in the comments. And, truthfully, I don't talk about it too much because I kind of feel like there's nothing to really be done about it. But a lot of people nowadays are just simply inattentive. They're driving distracted. They're driving with their phones. And as a motorcycle rider, it doesn't compute because we don't have the ability to use our phones while we're driving or riding, right? Like all 4 of your limbs are in constant contact with the motorcycle. It requires discipline and focus and self-restraint and responsibility to ride, which is something that a lot of car drivers have none of, right? Driving, especially in America, is seen as a right, not a privilege, and people treat it like that. And it's kind of crazy how, somebody could be using their phones while they're driving, they have a crash in the middle of an intersection, create bodily harm and damage, and they just get a slap on the wrist, and they're kind of like, all right, get back to driving, because we've all agreed that we have to drive everywhere. So it's almost treated like a right and not a privilege. But I really think there should be way, way, way stricter punishments on people who are texting and driving and using their phones, because you're putting everybody in danger, big time when you do that. And so as a motorcycle rider, that doesn't really compute, right? Because we get to use all of our limbs, we're focused, we're attentive, we're using the machine, going down the road, but that gives you an advantage because you can't ride and, fiddle around with your phone and check your emails and TikTok and Instagram or whatever. That gives you an opportunity to be really focused. I see a lot of rider crashes where rider focus was not at its highest level. And I'm just like, why? You are on this machine. You are given every opportunity to maintain full focus while you ride. There should not be a situation where you're on the motorcycle and you're not 100% focused. And I see this a lot with entry and intermediate level riders where they're kind of new to the game and they don't recognize how much focus is required of you when you are riding a motorcycle. Every time you have an input on the machine, you should really be thinking about what that is, and trying to feel what the bike is doing underneath you and what it's asking of you and what it's trying to get you to do. And that will probably cause you to crash a lot less often, if ever. Because that's the thing that a lot of old fogies and, unks like myself try to tell you guys that are a little younger. It's like, this is serious business. It's serious fun, but it's serious business. And if you really actually practice what we preach, which I do, you'll recognize that it's not that hard to avoid incidents. I haven't had an incident on street in years now. It's been years since something happened where I'm like, oh man, that was a close call. Because every year that goes by, I have fewer and fewer close calls. And that's why it's kind of led me to this belief that crashing is almost always your fault, man. It really is. And it's interesting, there's obviously a huge discussion, and it will, I think, continue until the end of time. How does power relate to crashing? And, you jumped up too soon to a big power bike, and that's why you crashed. And I've deferred to the idea nowadays that it's obviously not the power of the motorcycle that caused you to crash. Any bike will just do what you tell it to do. But the difference is big power motorcycles like these are incredibly intolerant of mistakes. They do not like it when you have bad inputs. They do not like it when you disrespect the amount of power and you get yourself in those sticky situations where you had the throttle open for a bit too long and now you're not going to make your braking zone into the corner and you're going to go off the road, right? That's a bad situation to find yourself in. And a beginner rider, an intermediate rider who jumps on a really powerful machine, you have to think about it in the sense it is still your fault that you crashed because you jumped up to a big power that you weren't ready for yet, and you did not respect the machine, and you did not appreciate that you had to put in the time to develop those skills either. And so I still think that people who, they jump up to a leader bike after riding for a year, I'm like, dude, that's a recipe for disaster, and you see it all the time. And also, weirdly enough, you don't see it all the time because there's survivorship bias online, right? We've talked about this in videos before where a lot of times the people who made it through their riding and, are like, oh, I started on a 1000 and I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, you're only fine because, you are just one of the few that actually survived. A lot of people don't make it. There's a lot of people that start on a 1000 and get maimed and injured and hurt. And then you just have to sit there and wonder, well, what could they have done differently? Well, maybe don't get a super powerful motorcycle. What I'm saying is we all make choices. We all make choices, and riding a motorcycle is a choice. And it's a choice that comes with a lot of responsibility, and you have to know what you're doing. Because while you guys will see me ride on these videos, and I'm having a great time, and I'm talking to you, and I'm enjoying myself, and on these big, powerful motorcycles, please keep in mind that I'm a very experienced motorcyclist. I'm riding on roads that I've ridden thousands of times. I'm doing something that is not really the norm for what an entry-level new motorcyclist is going to be doing. When you start out, everything's going to be completely new, completely fresh, completely scary, you know? For me, none of this is scary. I'm just cruising on a bike because I've done this for over a decade now. And so don't lull yourself into thinking that what you see on social media and online is going to be your experience of riding. You're not going to jump on a motorcycle and go rip 120 mile per hour wheelies and, just do everything that you see people on TikTok do. It's a very different experience in real life. And you're really going to have no one to blame except yourself if you crash. I really do believe that, man. Particularly those situations, which is actually statistically the most common, is people who crash in a single vehicle accident on a 2-lane road. So like a winding country road or something like that. That is almost always completely your fault, because it's like, well, how did you crash? They're like, oh, there was gravel in the road. I'm like, well, why were you not able to see the gravel? Was there so much gravel that you couldn't stop in time or slow down or get to it in a normal way, you know? It's like, come on, man. Let's be so for real. Come on. You just got to notice stuff, man. Riding bikes is a exercise in mindfulness, in patience, in inputs. Like, there really should never be a situation that you're not being mindful of your inputs. Ooh, I caught that light perfectly. Such a treat to wind this big engine out like that. Yeah, I had to do it. Traffic was going. You guys saw it, right? But alright, boys, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Talking through crashing and stuff like that. I know it's not a sexy topic, but I did feel like it was important to make this video and to have you guys just maybe, if this just saves at least 1 or 2 riders, they go on the next ride and they think like, man, like I saw that Amy video and I'm doing a little too much, Like, I know that happens a lot of times because it used to happen to me a lot in my first couple years of riding, where I would go out and ride and I'd think, man, I'm doing a little too much, You don't have to be doing all that. Save it for the track, save it for when you really got the experience. Don't go out there and go try to rip canyons and ride super fast and stuff if you're not really ready to do that sort of thing. There's gonna be that feeling in the back of your head where you're like, I am pushing this a little too much. And then resist the urge to take that footage and say, pushing limits on YouTube, because you're not pushing the limits. Come on, let's be so honest. Alright, boys, I'm now stuck in traffic, and that's gonna wrap up today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you appreciate it. Remember to go and check out the Aprilia 200 V4 giveaway on YamiNoob.co. This bike that I'm riding today, it's a beautiful machine. I am really, really sad that it is going to be going away, because I do love this bike so much. Such a ridiculous amount that I love this machine. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.